The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, a sea of cold light that offered no warmth, no comfort. A single fleet drifted through that darkness, weak engines burning slow trails of blue, carrying ships that once belonged to proud civilizations. Now those ships were broken, patched together with scraps, their lights flickering like dying candles. Inside the largest vessel, families huddled together, their faces pale and tired. Children pressed against their mothers, elders whispering prayers that no longer held hope. These were the exiles, a people unwanted, a people cast out. They had once lived on many worlds, scattered across galaxies, but step by step, system by system, every gate was closed to them. The refugees had begged for water, for food, for a chance to rest. But they were answered with threats, with guns, with closed ports. Rumors spread like fire through the stars. Whispers that the exiles carried death or war or some hidden curse. Worlds that once traded with them now declared them untouchable, dangerous, unwanted. So they drifted, carrying their wounded, their sick, their weak. Each day more lives were lost. Each night another ship fell silent, floating away like a cold tomb into the void. Their leader, an old alien with silver scars across his face, stood before the others and spoke with a voice that shook, not from weakness, but from carrying too much sorrow. "We are forgotten," he said. "The stars have turned their backs on us." Yet even as despair hung heavy, a single flame of hope remained. Among the younger ones, a story was whispered, a story of a world that was different, a blue world, rich with oceans and forests, fierce and kind at the same time. The story said this world did not bow to empires, nor did it forget mercy. That world was Earth. The children whispered it like a prayer. "Earth will help us," they said. "Earth will not turn us away." Their mothers smiled weakly, though their hearts doubted. Could such a place exist? Could such a people truly welcome the unwanted? As the fleet drifted further into darkness, their scanners found another system. A sun with golden light and planets circling it. The refugees dared to hope. Perhaps here, at last, they would find rest. The ships sent out signals, humble and pleading. Voices carried across the stars saying, "We ask for food, we ask for water, we ask only to survive." The response came quickly, sharp and cold. "Leave this place, cursed ones, you are not welcome here." Planetary defenses lit up, ready to fire. The refugees turned their ships away, hearts breaking again. Another door slammed shut. Another wound carved into their souls. One of the children asked, her voice trembling, "Why does no one want us? What did we do wrong?" Her mother held her close, unable to answer, for no answer could heal the truth. The truth was simple. The galaxy feared them, and fear is stronger than reason. The leader looked upon the stars with tired eyes, his voice low. "We cannot go on like this," he said. "If we keep drifting, we will fade into the dark." A silence followed, heavy and long, until at last another voice spoke, young, firm, unbroken. "There is still one place left," the young one said, "one world that might hear us." The old leader turned, his scarred face lit by the pale glow of dying lights. He knew the name before it was spoken, for the legend had reached even his weary ears. "Earth," he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "Yes," said the young one. "Earth will not turn us away." The fleet shuddered as engines sparked to life, weak but determined. They set their course for the far edge of the stars, for the small blue world spoken of only in stories. The exiles carried no weapons, only hope. They had nothing left to lose. And as the fleet moved, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, for if Earth turned them away, there would be no tomorrow. But if Earth opened its arms, then perhaps at last the lost would find a home, far away from the drifting fleet. Earth spun beneath the light of its golden sun, blue oceans glimmering, green forests breathing, cities alive with voices and light. It was a world that had seen wars, disasters, and victories, but it had never forgotten its scars, never forgotten how it once struggled to rise among the stars. On that world, leaders gathered in tall glass towers and echoing halls, screens filled with images of the approaching alien fleet. Faces grew tense, voices grew sharp, some spoke of mercy, others of danger. "They come with broken ships and empty hands," one general said, "but we cannot know what shadows they bring." A diplomat countered, her voice firm. "Every galaxy turned them away. Do we wish to become like those who feared instead of those who dared to help? Across Earth, people whispered, news channels blazed, debates filled the airwaves, some humans looked up at the stars with suspicion. They are cursed, one farmer muttered, watching the night sky from his porch. If the mighty empires rejected them, who are we to think we are safe? But others looked with compassion. Once we too were alone, an old woman said, her voice trembling with memory. And we dreamed of a hand to lift us. Will we now deny others the hope we once prayed for? In the halls of power, fear pressed like iron. Old records showed how mighty empires had crushed weaker worlds without mercy. If Earth welcomed these exiles, would war follow? Would fire rain from the skies, cities torn apart, oceans burning with falling metal? The generals painted grim pictures, their maps filled with red lines and enemy fleets. Compassion is weakness, one shouted, and weakness will kill us all. Yet not everyone bowed to fear. Among them stood a young commander, scarred by battles but unbroken in spirit. He spoke calmly, but his words cut sharper than steel. Fear builds walls, but courage builds bridges, he said. If the galaxy casts them out, then Earth must show it is different. We cannot measure ourselves by the cruelty of others. We must measure ourselves by our humanity. The room fell silent, tension thick as smoke. Eyes shifted, some filled with doubt, some with hope. Outside, people filled the streets, carrying banners, shouting for mercy, shouting for protection, voices clashing in chaos. The world itself seemed to split in two. Fear against compassion, survival against kindness. Meanwhile, in the skies above, the alien fleet crept closer. Sensors on Earth tracked their movement. The ships looked broken, fragile, carrying no weapons. But shadows of doubt twisted every image. Perhaps the weapons are hidden, the fearful said. Perhaps they lure us into trust only to betray. The aliens themselves did not know how Earth would answer. From their flickering screens, they saw debates, protests, broadcasts. They could not understand all the words, but they understood enough. This world was torn. This world was deciding their fate. In the heart of the refugee fleet, children asked their mothers, will Earth reject us too? Will they fire upon us like the others? And the mothers whispered, holding their little ones close, I do not know, but we must believe. On Earth, the debate reached its peak. The leaders voted, voices rising, fists slamming, fear nearly triumphed, the generals ready to seal the skies. But at the last moment, the diplomat and the young commander stood together. They reminded the Council of Earth's history, how once great powers tried to keep humanity weak, how humanity survived not through fear, but through defiance. Let us be the world that says yes when all others said no, the diplomat declared. Let us be the world that remembers me. The vote split, half in favor, half against. But the deciding voice came from the president, an old leader who had seen wars and carried losses deep in his heart. He rose slowly, eyes on the stars beyond the glass walls, and said, if Earth is to stand for anything, it must stand for hope. Open the channels. Tell them they are not alone. The order spread like wildfire. Across the oceans, across the cities, across the skies, a single message left Earth, flying through the void toward the broken fleet. Come to us. You are not rejected here. You are welcome. You belong. In the alien ships, silence fell, then tears, then cries of joy. Mothers wept. Fathers held their children close. The old leader closed his scarred eyes and whispered, at last, someone has heard us. But as Earth reached out, unseen eyes watched from the dark edges of the galaxy. The empires who had forced the refugees away stirred in anger. This world dares to defy us, they hissed. This Earth will pay the price. And in the deep shadows, warships began to gather, silent as blades, waiting for the moment to strike. The refugee fleet moved slowly toward the edge of the solar system, their engines groaning like tired hearts. Every soul inside those ships held their breath, afraid that Earth's message was only a trick, afraid that mercy would vanish like smoke. But still they came, because there was nothing else left. On Earth, the leaders argued again, but one choice had already been made. The president had said, let them come. And so humanity prepared. But preparation did not mean unity. Some built shelters and gathered food, others built weapons and sharpened defenses. Fear and hope walked side by side, ready to clash. Among the stars, a single human vessel left orbit before orders could stop it. It was a small ship, old but fast, crewed by soldiers and doctors who believed Earth could not wait for endless debates. At the helm stood Captain Mara Vey, a woman whose name carried both respect and unease. She was known for breaking rules when those rules chained mercy, and she was known for surviving battles that should have killed her. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" her second officer asked, staring at the dark ahead. "They could be dangerous. They could be dying," Mara replied, her voice cold but her eyes burning with fire. "If Earth is to welcome them, someone must take the first step. We will be that step." Her ship, the Aurora, cut through the void, lights piercing the dark until the broken refugee ships appeared. The sight made even hardened soldiers go silent. So many hulls scarred, patched with rust and metal scraps. Some ships barely alive, held together by will more than steel. Through the glass, Mara whispered, "My God, what have they suffered?" The Aurora sent out a signal. "This is the Earth vessel Aurora. We come in peace. We bring supplies. Do not be afraid." For long moments, there was only static. The crew shifted nervously, hands ready over defense systems, eyes watching the shadows. Then at last a reply came, weak and trembling. "This is the fleet of the forgotten. Are you real?" Or another voice of false hope. Mara stepped forward, leaning close to the transmitter. "We are real, we are human, and we will not turn you away." Inside the refugee flagship, the old leader heard her words and tears ran down his scarred face. He motioned to open their gates slowly, as if afraid the humans would vanish like a dream. And so, for the first time in years, alien airlocks hissed open to welcome another people. Mara and her team entered with caution, rifles ready but lowered. The smell of rust, sickness, and hunger filled the air. Every corner showed the suffering of years. Children with hollow eyes, families wrapped in torn blankets, machines running on scraps. The soldiers' hands shook, but not with fear, with anger at the cruelty the galaxy had shown. Mara knelt before a young alien girl, thin. As a shadow, her eyes wide with both hope and terror, she offered her a small package of food, her voice soft. "Eat, little one. No one will hurt you here." The child touched the food as if it might vanish, then clutched it tight, and in that single moment, a bridge was built between worlds. But bridges also cast shadows. Far away, deep scanners hidden in the void detected Earth's signal of welcome. The Galactic Empire listened, their leaders filled with fury. "They dare to break the exile," one hissed. "They dare to challenge our will." A command was given, fleets prepared, weapons armed. Let Earth learn the price of mercy. Back on the refugee ship, Mara met with the old leader. "Why did every world reject you?" she asked, her voice sharp. The leader lowered his eyes, heavy with sorrow. "Because we carry a secret," he whispered. "A secret the Empire's fear." "What secret?" Mara pressed. But the old leader only shook his head. "When the time comes, you will know. And when you know, you may regret welcoming us." The words struck her like iron. Was Earth bringing danger into its own heart? She did not know, but she knew one thing. Turning them away would be worse, for without Earth they would die, and humanity would lose its soul. The Aurora sent word back to Earth. Contact made, supplies delivered, they are weak but peaceful. Yet hidden in that message was an unspoken truth. This was only the beginning, and shadows were already moving closer. On Earth, the news exploded. Some cheered, some screamed, some demanded the fleet be destroyed before it reached orbit. But none could stop what had already begun. The exiles were coming, and Earth had chosen. The galaxy held its breath. The refugees clung to hope. The Empire sharpened its blades, and Captain Mara Vey whispered to herself, "This is not just mercy. This is war waiting to begin." The refugee fleet drifted closer to Earth, pulled by fragile hope. Inside their ships, families whispered prayers, children dreamed of oceans and skies they had never seen. But in the silence beyond, other voices stirred, darker and colder. In the hidden halls of the Galactic Dominion, rulers sat upon thrones of steel, their eyes burning with pride and cruelty. Holograms of Earth glowed before them, glowing blue and alive. "It is true," one said, voice sharp like a blade. "The humans welcome the outcasts. They break the exile," another growled. "They defy our law." A third, older and colder, leaned forward and whispered, "Then they must learn the price of defiance." The council turned their gaze to a fleet commander, a beast of a warrior wrapped in dark armor, his name feared in every system, Admiral Kareth. He bowed his head only slightly, his voice deep. "Shall I strike?" "Yes," the council answered as one. "But strike with silence first, let them believe they are safe, and then break them." Back near Earth, Captain Mara Vey felt unease tighten her chest. The old alien leader had spoken of a secret, something the galaxy feared, and now his silence weighed heavier than the void. She confronted him again in the dim halls of the flagship. "You said the empires feared you. Tell me why. Tell me the truth." The old leader closed his eyes, his voice trembling like a man carrying centuries of sorrow. "We are not cursed. We are not diseased. What we carry is knowledge." "What knowledge?" Mara pressed, her hand tightening on the table. "The knowledge of their lies," the old one whispered. "Proof that the great empires are not gods, but tyrants built on stolen blood." Mara's breath caught. "If that is true, then Earth is already in danger." The old leader nodded slowly. "Yes, and because you opened your doors, the Dominion will come. They will burn your skies to keep their truth hidden." Far above, Earth's defenses activated. Silent satellites turning their gaze to the stars. Generals prepared, weapons armed, shields raised. But fear spread through the council halls on Earth like poison. "We cannot fight an empire," one shouted. "We must send the exiles away before war begins," but others refused. "If we send them away, we send away our soul," the diplomat answered, her voice iron. "Earth will not become a mirror of tyranny." The people of Earth filled the streets again, voices shouting. Some cried, "Protect them." Others screamed, "Save ourselves." The world stood divided, even as the enemy fleet crept closer, hidden in the shadow of stars. In the refugee fleet, whispers spread. They knew war was coming. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers prepared old weapons long unused. Even though they had nothing, even though they had suffered, they swore they would stand with Earth if the enemy came. Mara returned to the Aurora, her crew tense, her voice steady though her heart burned. "Prepare the ship," she ordered. "The Dominion will not let this stand." Her second officer asked, "Can we win, Captain?" She looked into the dark beyond the glass and answered, "Winning is not the question. Surviving with honor is." Then the first shadow appeared, a flicker on the long-range scans, small at first, then larger, then countless. The Dominion fleet had arrived, silent and vast, blades of metal against the stars. One by one, alarms screamed across Earth's satellites. Generals shouted orders. The people of Earth lifted their eyes to the night sky, unaware that death already waited above. A single transmission came through, cold and merciless. "This is Admiral Kareth of the Dominion," the voice growled. "Earth, you have broken our law. Surrender the exiles or burn with them." The council fell into chaos. Some demanded surrender, others roared defiance. The president stood silent, his hands heavy on the table. He knew this was no longer a question of fear or safety. This was a question of what it meant to be human. In the refugee flagship, the old leader turned to Mara, his eyes wet with grief. "We should leave. If Earth falls because of us, we cannot bear that guilt." Mara shook her head fiercely. "No, if Earth falls, it will be because the Dominion fears the truth you carry, and if we stand together, maybe, just maybe, we will rise stronger than they expect." The enemy fleet spread across the stars like a storm. Earth's defenses powered up. Warships rose from orbit. The people of two worlds, one broken and one defiant, stood on the edge of destiny, and in the silence before the storm, the universe itself seemed to shiver, for the battle about to come would decide not only the fate of Earth and the exiles, but the fate of truth itself. The message from Admiral Kareth hung heavy in the air. "Surrender the exiles or burn with them." It echoed through the council halls, through the cities, through the very heartbeat of Earth. In the great chamber of leaders, voices clashed like thunder. "Send them away," one shouted. "We cannot fight an empire. If we surrender now, we survive," another argued. "Earth will live another day." But others rose with fury. "Survive by betraying them?" the diplomat snapped. "Then what is left of us? If mercy dies, what does survival even mean?" The president sat in silence, his hands clasped, his eyes staring through the glass walls at the stars. He had fought wars, buried friends, seen nations burn, and he knew this decision was not only about survival, it was about identity. What would Earth stand for? Fear or courage? Outside, the people filled the streets. Some begged their leaders to surrender, holding signs that cried, "Protect Earth first." Others shouted louder, their voices shaking the air, "We will not betray them." Children marched with painted banners. Every galaxy turned them away. Earth will not. In the refugee fleet, hope and dread battled in every heart. They saw the enemy ships gathering, black blades against the stars. They knew Earth could end their journey here. The old leader told HFY people, "Prepare yourselves, for this moment will decide if we live or vanish forever." On the Aurora, Captain Mara Vey watched her crew. They were ready, weapons primed, but their faces carried the weight of fear. She stood before them, her voice sharp. "Listen well, this fight is not about land or power. This fight is about who we are. If Earth sends them away, we lose our soul. If we stand with them, we may die, but we will die as humans, not as cowards." Her words lit a fire in their hearts. Soldiers straightened their backs. Doctors clenched their fists. Pilots tightened their grips. The Aurora was ready, no matter what Earth decided. At last, the council fell silent, all eyes turning to the president. He rose slowly, his voice steady though heavy with the weight of billions. "Generations from now, our children will ask who we were in this moment," he said. "If we surrender the exiles, history will name us cowards. If we fight, history may not name us at all, for we may not survive. But I would rather Earth be remembered for courage than forgotten for fear." He lifted his hand, his command carried across the networks of Earth. "Prepare the defenses. Earth will not surrender." The world erupted, cheers and cries mixing as one. Some wept with pride, others trembled with fear. But the decision was made, and there would be no turning back. In orbit, Earth's fleets rose like steel giants. Old warships awakened from hidden vaults. Engines roared, weapons charged, satellites locked onto the enemy. The Dominion fleet loomed larger, thousands of ships in formation, their power like a storm ready to crush a single spark. Admiral Careth's voice thundered once more, "You choose death." But Earth answered with silence, silence that was stronger than words. In the refugee flagship, the old leader turned to his people. "They chose us," he whispered, tears on his face. "For the first time, we are not alone." The refugees prepared what little they had, small ships, weak shields, ancient weapons. They knew they could not change the war, but they could fight beside those who welcomed them. Mara sent a final message to Earth's command. "The Aurora will hold the line," she said. "Tell the people, humanity is not afraid." And then, in the cold silence between stars, the first shot was fired. A Dominion cruiser unleashed a beam of fire that tore through the void. Earth's defenses roared to life, answering with missiles and light. The battle had begun. The night sky over Earth blazed with fire. From cities and villages, humans looked upward, watching streaks of flame cut across the heavens. Some prayed, some screamed, some stood silent. But all knew they were living history. The Dominion expected surrender. They expected fear. Instead, they found defiance. Earth, small and fragile compared to their empire, had chosen to fight. And in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to shift, because one world had dared to say, "We will not turn them away." The first shot had torn the silence of space, and now the void burned with fire. Earth's warships rose in formation, steel wings spread wide, engines blazing. The Dominion fleet stretched across the stars like a black wall, endless, merciless, certain of victory. From the ground below, billions watched the night sky turn into a battlefield. Lines of fire streaked overhead. Explosions lit the heavens. Children clung to their parents. Soldiers whispered promises to their families. The world trembled, but it did not break. On the bridge of the Aurora, Captain Mara Vey stood tall, her voice sharp and steady. "Hold the line, strike hard, strike true," she commanded. Her crew obeyed, missiles launched, beams of light carved into enemy hulls. The Aurora darted through the chaos, weaving between blasts that could shatter mountains. The refugees joined the fight, their ships weak, their weapons old, but their hearts fierce. One by one, they formed a shield around Earth's warships. They knew they could not win alone, but they could bleed for the world that gave them hope. A refugee pilot whispered as he charged his failing guns. For Earth, for home. Admiral Kareth watched from the Dominion flagship, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. These humans are reckless, he growled. They fight like they believe they can win. They are ants, another officer sneered. We will crush them. But Kareth's eyes narrowed, for he saw something his officers did not. The humans did not fight with fear. They fought with fury, with unity, with something deeper. They will not break easily, he muttered. This Earth has teeth. The Dominion unleashed its fury. Massive beams cut through the dark, tearing apart refugee ships. Explosions bloomed. Voices screamed through the comms. Mara's heart twisted as she heard them, but she did not flinch. Keep firing, she ordered. For every ship we lose, make them pay tenfold. Earth's secret weapons awoke. Old warships, hidden for decades in deep vaults, rose from the oceans and deserts. Colossal cannons charged, unleashing storms of light that shredded Dominion cruisers. The galaxy had thought Earth was weak, but now it revealed its hidden claws. On the ground, defense towers lit up. Missiles launched from silos, satellites rained fire. The Dominion ships that tried to break through found themselves hammered from every side. Still the enemy pressed, endless, relentless, determined to drown Earth in blood. Mara's ship shook as a blast ripped past. We can't hold forever, her officer shouted. We don't need forever, Mara snapped, her eyes blazing. We just need long enough to break their pride. Then something unexpected happened. A refugee ship, badly damaged, spun out of control, flames bursting from its engines. Instead of fleeing, the pilot turned his ship toward a Dominion battleship. He whispered a prayer, and then he rammed his vessel into the enemy's heart. The explosion lit the void, tearing the battles. A ship apart, the comms filled with cheers. They fight with us, Mara whispered, her chest tight with pride. They are ours now. The Dominion grew angry, their commanders shouting, crush them, end this now. But Admiral Kareth raised his hand, his voice cold. No, let them bleed longer, let them suffer. We will break not only their ships, but their spirit. And so the storm raged on. Hours felt like years. Ships burned, fleets shattered, but Earth did not fall. Every time a human ship was destroyed, two more rose in its place. Every time a refugee vessel was lost, another took its place in defiance. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, Kareth clenched his fists. This is not how it was meant to be, he growled. For the first time in years, he felt something he had forgotten. Doubt. Mara sensed it too. Through the chaos, through the fire, she felt the tide shift. We can win this, she whispered. By God, we can win. But even as victory flickered in the distance, the old refugee leader came to her side, his voice grave. You do not yet know the full truth, he said. The Dominion will not stop here. They will unleash something far worse. Mara turned, her heart pounding. What do you mean? But the old leader only looked at the burning horizon of stars, his eyes heavy with sorrow. The real war has yet to begin. And as the Dominion fleet pulled back slightly, regrouping, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The battle for home was not over. It was only the beginning. The stars burned red with fire. The wreckage of ships drifted across the void. Earth's fleets, battered and scarred, still held formation. The refugee vessels, broken and bleeding, still flew beside them. But the Dominion fleet, endless and merciless, gathered once more, preparing for a final strike. Admiral Kareth stood tall on the command deck, rage boiling in his chest. These humans should have fallen by now, he roared. End them, end this defiance. His officers obeyed, engines roared, weapons charged. The Dominion moved to crush Earth in one final storm. On the Aurora, Captain Mara Vey felt the air tighten. Her crew looked at her with fear and faith. We cannot survive another wave, her officer whispered. Mara clenched her fists, her eyes hard as steel. Then we will not survive. We will win, she said, her voice sharp as a blade. At that moment, the old refugee leader rose, his frail body shaking, but his eyes blazing with fire. He placed his hand on Mara's arm. "The time has come," he whispered. "The secret we carry is not only knowledge, it is power. Power stolen from us long ago by the Dominion." He pointed to the core of his flagship. "Inside lies a weapon, not of destruction, but of truth, a signal that can shatter their empire, a code that reveals their lies, their crimes, their chains." Mara stared at him, her heart pounding. "If we use it? They will lose the loyalty of their worlds," he said. "The galaxy will see the Dominion for what it truly is, tyrants built on fear." "But the price?" Mara asked, her voice low. The old leader closed his eyes. "The signal will burn us, the last of my people. We were the carriers of this truth, our lives bound to protect it, and to release it means our end." Mara shook her head, fury in her voice. "There must be another way." But the old one smiled sadly. "This is the way. Earth gave us a home. Now we give Earth a future." The refugees prepared the signal, their ships aligning in formation. On Earth, leaders watched in silence as data poured in. "What are they doing?" one asked. The diplomat's eyes widened. "They are about to end the war, not with guns, but with truth." Admiral Kareth saw it too. He shouted in rage, "Destroy them before they send it." But Earth ships moved. The Aurora and her fleet formed a wall of steel, shielding the refugees with their own bodies. Missiles tore through the void. Explosions shook the dark, but still the line held. Then, the signal was unleashed. A pulse of light spread across the stars. Not fire, not destruction, but a burning truth. Every Dominion channel, every world under their grip received the message. Images of slaughter, chains, betrayals. The secrets the Dominion had buried for centuries. Worlds gasped, soldiers wept, rulers faltered. The Empire's mask was torn away. Admiral Kareth fell silent, his face pale, his empire crumbling before his eyes. "No," he whispered. "They cannot see this." But it was too late. The galaxy saw, and the galaxy remembered. The Dominion fleet wavered, ships breaking formation, commanders refusing orders. Some turned their guns away. Others fled into the dark. The mighty wall of the Empire cracked, and the cracks spread like fire. On the refugee flagship, the old leader stood tall one last time. His people gathered around him, tears shining. "We are free," he whispered, "and we are home." Then his body trembled, the light in his eyes fading. The signal had burned his strength, but he smiled as he fell, for he knew his people would live. The battle ended not with destruction, but with revelation. The Dominion retreated, broken and bleeding. Earth and the exiles stood side by side, scarred but unbowed. On Earth, people filled the streets, not with fear, but with joy. They cheered, they cried, they sang the names of the refugees as brothers and sisters. For the first time, humanity saw itself not alone, but part of something greater. Captain Maravay stood on the bridge, watching the stars. She whispered softly, "They came to us rejected, unwanted, but now they belong. They are ours, and we are theirs." The president spoke to the world, his voice strong. Every galaxy turned them away, but Earth said, "You belong here." Today, we proved what it means to be human. Today, we proved what it means to be free. And so, from the ashes of war, a new beginning rose, a bond of two peoples, forged in fire, sealed in sacrifice. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth chose defiance, the day Earth chose mercy, the day Earth chose to open its arms and say,